people on my iPad screen. So if I'm not saying good morning or good afternoon to you, it's because I can't see you. So welcome all people. I think I'll call the meeting of the Human Resources and Labor Relations Committee to order. And I would ask Beth to please take a roll call.
Hey, Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Mishu,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Loring,
Yes.
Trustee Riley.
Yep.
Leave this, everyone.
And Trustee
Val?
Landry's here.
Valerie's here. I thought I saw Valerie.
I'm here.
Hi, Valerie. Welcome.
Hey, Pat.
Thanks. I just wanted to say, if the people have checked in for the public meeting, we probably won't start the public part of the meeting today till about 1:40 or 1:50. Does that sound right, Carolyn? Sometime around then. So I just wanted to make sure people knew that ahead of time. Could I have a motion for the HR and LR Committee of the Board of Trustees to go into executive session under the provisions of 1 MRSA Section 4056A to discuss the evaluation of personnel and the consideration and discussion of appointments, evaluations, employment, and duties, and 1 MRSA Section 4056D to discuss planning for negotiations and communications with AFM, UMSA, AXM, Police, PETFA, and service and maintenance units.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Trustee Riley. Beth, could you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Flood,
Yes.
Trustee Mishu,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Loring,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee Landry.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll move
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
And it's not letting me out. Join. All right.
Welcome back, everyone. We're in our public session of the Human Resource and Labor Relations Committee. And Chair Riley was with us for a while earlier today, but she has left. And I believe we're going to lose Trustee Michaud at some point. So we'll try to get through these quickly. Someone suggested, I think Carolyn suggested that probably be good to have make some announcements and updates as a regular part of our Human Resource Labor Relations Committee meetings. And I'll probably try to formalize that a little bit more so that all committee members can have a stab at that. But I just wanted to reflect on a couple things. I'm only going to take like 2 or 3 minutes here to just talk about some things. One was, I think everyone knows on the Human Resource Committee that, you know, annually it's a duty of the chair of the committee to develop an evaluation process for the board chair. And I just wanted to let you know that that process was developed in February and March. It was completed at an executive session of the board at our April 7th meeting. And I just want to take the opportunity today to thank the people, some of them on this call, who helped me put that process together, and also thank the board for their full participation and our chair for the very good discussions that we had with her. And just to let you all know that that mission was accomplished. So that was one thing I wanted to let you know about. And the other was, it's not really an announcement, but it's just kind of, I think, a reflection on our last meeting. I thought it was a very busy meeting, and you may have forgotten, which I had forgotten, that we participated that day in developing and working on a recommendation for a resolution later that day for the Board of Trustees to appoint President McDonald at the University of Maine at Farmington. And that was a pretty hectic day because there were lots of different kinds of meetings to make that happen. But then later in the day, there was a board meeting, and I can recall that it was a very supportive board meeting where at the end of the day, our committee, the chancellor, the entire board of trustees gave a great deal of support to President McDonald at the University of Maine at Farmington. So I just remembered that, and I just thought that was, you know, sometimes you have to remind yourself of the nice things that happened. So that's the extent of my update. So if anyone else had any updates, feel free. Now, the other topics that we had that were specific topics, we have from our annual work plan, there's two items that we are required to do each May. And I believe one of them is the workforce profile report. And Jacob Foster, I believe, is here to help us with that today. And the second item, that's tab 2. And the second item is also a required item for our May meeting. It's the turnover analysis report. And Jacob, I think, is going to provide us with that as well. So Jacob, if you could go ahead and present those to us, I'd appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Jacob Foster. I'm the compensation manager, but I've historically worked as the lead on both of these reports that you're about to hear all about. So the first one we have is the workforce profile report. These are the highlights of the highlights section of this report. So these are just the most facts. The workforce profile, this represents our full-time and part-time regular employees who are actively receiving a paycheck as of the October 31st, 2023 census. There's also a section for part-time faculty member analysis, which we consider our temporary employees and not regular, so they get their own separate attention. And starting with this year, the Machias campus has been combined with the Orono campus for reporting purposes. This is because when we do this report, it's information that's coming from our larger IPEDS report. And within IPEDS, we've had to condense Machias to Orono. So for the workforce profile, they're also combined. So you'd see some differences here in terms of numbers specifically for the UMaine numbers because it's combined. But, starting with the gender section, count and gender by category. Looking at our total workforce, we have 4,415 regular employees and 794 part-time faculty teaching in the fall of this past year. Overall, the workforce consisted of 54% women majority and 46% men. For our faculty population, there's almost an even split between men and women, with women at 49.5% and men at 50.5%. Pretty close. And new for 2023's report, women have historically been the majority for the hourly population, but they have surpassed into the majority now with 52% and 48.2% minority for men. Women still remain the majority for salaried at 58.6%. Moving on to our average salaries analysis. Average salaries increase with varying percentages across all the groups for this report. The highest increase was seen with the administrators group at about a 6% increase from 2022. Salaried stayed about the same. Hourly went down from last year, and faculty went up, not incredibly significantly, but those were the trends we observed. Looking at the age analysis, average age has had little variation over the years, and it has been consistent with this report as well, with the average age being 48 across all the groups. The majority of the workforce are under 55 years of age. Faculty is 61% under 55. Hourly is 53% under 55. Salaried is 73%. And the only group with the majority over 55 are the administrators group, with 55% over 55. A lot of fives. Looking at our highest degree analysis, in 2022, we had a push from HR to get more people to self-report their highest degree earned. So we got a lot of newer numbers in 2022, and that trend continued into 2023. So the percentage of employees that have not disclosed a degree type fell from 16% to 14.7%. So we're happy about that. Looking at the race and ethnicity analysis, minority status increased from 7.7% to 8.4%. And this continues a trend of increases in minority status reported. UMaine, which is also UMaine and Machias, is at 9.2%, and USM is 10.1%. And they maintain the highest percentage of minority status across the system. Looking at our average years of service, the average years of service for the entire workforce is about 10 years compared to what was reported last year, which was 11 years. So it has gone down one. UMaine Farmington takes the lead for the longest average years of service at 13.2. Maine Law has the lowest average years of service at 8.7, but it's very closely followed by UMaine Augusta, which is 8.9 years of service. And then our part-time faculty analysis. Part-time faculty teaching load decreased very slightly, only by 77 credit hours from fall 2022 to fall 2023. In a previous year, it was about 200 credit hours different, so that was interesting. USM still maintains the highest number of part-time faculty for the campuses at 315 active part-time faculty employees. And that is the most interesting bits of the highlights. So open to any questions, and if I can't answer it right here, I will certainly do some research and get back to you on it.
Thank you very much. How often, Jacob, are you're giving us totals, and I think we get these in once a year. Is there anything remarkable that happened during the year that it didn't seem to me that there were any surprises in the numbers, but I'm not working with them every day, but you are. Was there anything that was a surprising number to you?
Not really. Mostly because I noticed that the total overall amount of employees decreased. So that was I knew it was going to affect all the other percentages we saw. But, scaling it up, it wasn't crazy. None of it really stood out to me at all. It was very much expected, for sure.
All right. And I know we're going to have this report and we're going to have the turnover analysis report too. Given that there weren't any surprises here, are there other kinds of reports that you in this field think we should be doing that you wish we would require? Are there reports that would be equally meaningful to us that we're not doing that we should be?
That's a great question. I feel like we do a ton of reports, so it's hard to say what we're missing at this point.
Right.
Nothing, I guess, that sticks out to me
Okay.
as need to take on at this time.
Okay. And I'm not looking to do more reports. I'm just wondering if there's something that you thought, gee, these folks should be searching for this particular information.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, as we look at what pieces of the strategic plan, initiatives that relate to HRLR committee, as we look at bringing those forward to future meetings, that might be where some of the reports that are done in HR that we don't typically bring out yearly might now come out as a report or an update that this group would get. So that's something I can check with you, Jacob, on what it is that you're already doing for reports when we go through the list with the HR team next week.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Excuse me. So there's something I'd
Hi,
like
Don.
to see. Hi. I'm kind of curious as to gender equality as far as salary goes in the departments, like in administration, faculty, governance. Is there a gender gap still within the university system in those areas? I know you've done a lot of statistics, but that's something I'd really like to see.
I know that I don't do like a system-wide analysis, but if a campus thinks they've spotted an issue, they'll bring it to me and we'll do a very individualized investigation on it. But I do know that as we move into our new cloud system, we will have more capabilities of identifying those gaps and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that in the future.
Yeah, I just think we should be aware of that, not just for investigative case, but you know, to be equal in general, to look at that. That's all.
I can add that, Trustee Loring, to the list of reports that we're looking at for strategic plan updating. I can certainly add that type of analysis.
Thank you.
And Trustee Loring, to add to that, to a certain degree, one of the things that we do have access to, you know, is that Coupa data. So we will be able to, once we migrate, to better track not only the challenges that we may be facing internally as a system, but how that measures up to our peers and other institutions of higher education as well. So we do think post-transition, as Jacob had mentioned, much better access to that type of information that we would hope to make available to you.
Thank you, Jason. We can go on to the next report, I think. Valerie, did you still have a question?
Trustee Landry had her hand up.
Yeah, sorry.
I do not, it doesn't have to be an answer now, Jake. This is an incredible amount of data. It's so interesting. Thank you very much for all of this work. One thing going forward and it may be contained in here somewhere and I haven't seen it yet, but seeing the trend line on a couple of different things. One of the ones that I'm looking at right now would be the trend line for part-time versus full-time faculty, sort of over a number of years versus where it was last year to the current year. So that would be, to the extent we can see where trends are emerging, if you see, and you can bring those to our attention, that this is going down for 5 years or up for 5 years, or that would be helpful. So I don't need any more information at this moment, but if you just keep that in mind going forward, that would be great. And thank you again for all of this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for letting me know. That is good to know.
Make sure, Valerie.
If we're good, I'm ready to
Go
move
ahead,
on to
Marco.
turnover.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So the next report is our turnover analysis report. This report includes only our regular staff and based on their primary position records. They had to have been either active, on leave with pay, or leave without pay status to be included in this. Regular staff and the part-time faculty unit are included in this, even though they're part of that temporary staff bit. This report covers period from November 1, 2022 through October 31st, 2023. Total separations for any reason was 686, which was only 4 more than the previous year's count, which was 682. The turnover rate was 15.3%, which is about the same as our rate last year, which was 15%. Retirement and voluntary resignation were the leading reasons for separation at 49.6% voluntary resignation and 22.7% for retirement. This was the most interesting piece that actually stood out for me because it was not part of our norm, but the external benchmark for our turnover rates, we used the Coupa data, and their turnover rate for 2023 was 12.9 compared to our 15.3. Where historically we have been very close, if not the same as Coupa, and this is the first year that I've seen since doing the report that we've had that big of a discrepancy between our benchmark and what we're doing. So that was one thing I wanted to note. Turnover rates in general continue to trend upward. Retention rate for all the universities in our system was 83.4%, which was down from 22's 85%. And while overall retention rate is down, several campuses saw increases in retention rate. That included Augusta, Farmington, Fort Kent, Machias, and USM, and our University Services Group. There were 70 new hires with minority status for the whole system, which was up from 62 from last year. 13% of these new hires left within their first year, which was better than in 2022, where we had 31% left from within the first year. The non-minority counterpart had a 22% that left within the first year. Regarding the bargaining units, the highest turnover rate was seen with the service and maintenance group at 30%, and the lowest with the non-rep salary group at 11%. Those are the interesting bits. Ready for any questions?
I don't see any hands up, but I might be missing somebody. David has a question.
Yeah.
Trustee McMahon.
Just a quick question, Jacob. How much influence was the transfer of the meal service at Orono to Sodexo and those people not being continuing as our employees? How much has that affected those numbers?
Probably more than I understand just looking at the numbers, but that's what I assumed the higher rate of turnover was for the service and maintenance group. I haven't done the exact analysis on it, but I'm sure that it's definitely a hard factor.
And would that mean that some of those people are actually just not gone from the campus, they're just now working for a different employer? Is that what you're sensing from that, Jacob?
You know, I don't know how they did the actual transfer. I assume that they are moved out of that service and maintenance unit, but I don't know how they're reported as now.
They have been, I'm sorry, Jacob, they have been moved out of the unit, and in fact, they're no longer UMS employees. And so I would imagine that they're picked up as part of Jacob's involuntary, right, form of separation. Most, if not all, that I'm aware of were employed directly thereafter, directly by Sodexo, but they have exited employment with UMS altogether.
You saw this in the budget last year when you saw compensation went down and sales and services went up by a corresponding amount.
I guess my question was around, we saw an enhanced turnover rate compared to our benchmark. And I'm just trying to get, is the underlying cause this transfer to Sodexo? Because if it is, it's nothing to worry about.
If I'm just pointing back to the highlights that are on the materials, I believe that that's incorporated in the second bullet point where Jacob had noted that the turnover rate at 15.3% is up from last year's 15% due to that increase in involuntary separations. And from large scale events, that is really the only one that I'm aware of over the past 12 months that would drive such an uptick. And so to your credit, or to your question, Trustee McMahon, I do believe that that instance is inflating these numbers quite a bit, but still, appropriately reflected in Jacob's statistics.
Thank you. Thank you, Jacob. Was there any other topic there that you wanted to highlight?
Nope.
Did a good job of highlighting the ones that you sent to us.
Yeah, I'm good unless anyone has any other questions, but
I don't see that. Thank you very much.
yes,
Well,
thank you all. Enjoy the rest of
Maybe
your day.
we'll there was one topic that I think Trustee Landry was asking you to consider doing some different things on it. We may be back in touch with you to flesh out some things sometime over the next month or so, just to make sure that we're capturing what the trustee was hoping for and seeing what you could maybe help us with.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for helping us today.
Thanks.
We had a labor relations update, and Rhea DeMay was here to help us with that. Rhea?
Good afternoon. Rhea Glenn DeMay, Senior Director for Labor and Employee Relations for the system. I just have a few brief bargaining updates. So the first bargaining update is on distance education. We are having those negotiation sessions and engaging in good faith bargaining with AFM to resolve that issue. And then in relation to UAW and the Graduate Student Union, we are in active negotiations with them as well to continue to formulate our first collective bargaining agreement. We've been meeting fairly regularly, bi-weekly in most cases, and sometimes with meetings in between, to continue those bargaining sessions and to make progress on our first bargaining contract. Any questions on that?
Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
And then one more update on bargaining with 3 of our units. So we are currently also engaging in bargaining with the AXM unit, which is our hourly staff, the AFM unit, which is our full-time faculty, and then the UMSA unit, which is our salaried staff. We are engaging in different levels of those negotiations currently, meeting and working with our internal bargaining teams, setting priorities, and having those discussions with the bargaining units, and those are progressing as well.
Thank you. Questions from anyone on the call? It's a lot of work, and we know it's ongoing, as you say, and sometimes we probably can't appreciate that it ongoing means every day, 2 or 3 phone calls and meetings and so forth. So thank you very much, Rhea, for the updates. We know that's difficult work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our work plan was something that Acting Vice Chancellor for Strategic Initiatives, Carolyn Dorsey, was going to update us on.
Yes, thank you. We'll just take a minute. If you recall, at the last meeting, I had talked about every committee has a working plan where you can go out and see the types of reports or documents like those that Jacob just presented to us, when they come before a committee, and the general timing for when they come, if there's a required time of the year that you would typically tend to see them. So I recently worked with Katie, who's on the call, and some others to look at our HRLR work plan and updated it to make sure that it was comprehensive of the different types of reports and activities that we had prior to the strategic plan being adopted. One of the things that I noticed is our plan didn't really flow in terms of due dates or meeting dates and when things would be assigned. And that I always worried that I might miss one if it wasn't kind of set up by this is what we do in January and this is what we do in March. So I've just taken the document and rewritten it to make it appear sort of by meeting, what you would expect to see at each one of the meetings from year to year. The piece that I have not yet completed, and it speaks to a conversation I had previously with Trustee Landry. There are 4 general areas out of the strategic plan that the particular pieces, the initiatives or goals from those 4 areas are areas that have been identified as being typically reported out here in HRLR. So I'm working with a team. We're meeting next week to dig into those, look at the types of reports, look at some of the different pieces of information or metrics that we might need to talk about those specific initiatives, and then list them out and apply them again to our work plan so we can get them in the flow of reporting. Something that we will take a first stab at, and then we'll offer back to the committee members, and you all can let us know, as you did today, some items that you may want us to include that we hadn't perhaps thought of. So still a work in progress, but the work plan is becoming a much more, I think for me, a user-friendly document that I can look at to make sure we don't miss anything, or that any important information doesn't fall between the cracks because it isn't listed kind of in a more user-friendly way on our work plan. So just an update to let you know that.
Carolyn, would that be something that would be a topic on our next committee agenda?
Yes.
We would weave that in there with the comments that I think.
Yep. I have a couple written down from today.
Yeah, Trustee Landry had one, and I think Trustee Loring had one dealing with gender equality. There might be a time of the year where we want to put a specific report due.
Yes.
And the other items that came up today, you've already taken note of those, it sounded like.
Yes.
So. All right, well, thank you.
And we just want to make sure that with the new areas that were coming out of the strategic plan, that we have a good handle on the best way to present that information as well. So
yeah, great.
Yeah,
wonderful. Thank you for that. And those were good additions. It seemed to me that several good additions came up today. So our work plan right now looks pretty. It's like it's a one-page document with some specific dates for certain things. But I think I envisioned you coming up with something that looks a little more rigorous or structured. Sounds like. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Anything else, Carolyn, on that?
I just have one more item on the agenda, and it's simply just a reminder that we had worked and turned into you all a group of new procedures and processes, an overview, really a review of our internal hiring procedures, and that information was all discussed in prior meetings. But one of the things that we did as a follow-up to that review and the process work was to look at board policy and see if there was any gap in existing board policy that may need to be revised, or a new board policy for consideration. I think there is an area, at least one area, where we have come up with some proposed language that we believe we would like the trustees to look at, that we think will strengthen the HR area as far as board policy is concerned. That information has been submitted to Trustee Alexander, because I know she's working with a team to be able to look at board policy and review current board policy. So they will take that under advisement with the rest of their review, and we'll report out about that at the next, I believe, the next committee meeting, depending on the timeline of their review. But it is ongoing, and just wanted to give a quick update to let you know that policy review work has initiated.
Yeah, thank you. And I may have put a little monkey in the monkey in the wrench, threw a wrench into the works, because I think I was really trying to accommodate two committees by maybe avoiding a meeting in the process. And I think that's what Barbara Alexander, Trustee Alexander, said. It'd be nice, but it sounds like you can't do that. You got to take the product that's the first product, the old product, revamp it, go to the board, come back, revise it. So, we're going to do it the structured way that it is what we're supposed to do. So, okay. Well, thank you very much, Carolyn. Anybody else have any other work for the committee? Because I think our agenda is actually, we fast forwarded through that last 20 minutes or so. I think we're done for the day, unless someone else has something they want to bring forward. No. Thank you, everyone. I think we are adjourned. Do we need a motion to adjourn or just adjourn, Beth?
No motion.
Just adjourn?
Yeah.
We're
no
gonna
motion.
just adjourn then. And thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take care.
you.